Every housing market is different. So therefore, in today's video, we're going to talk about what's happening at each of the counties in California because every market is actually different. We're going to talk about home prices, home sales, and much more for California. So this is a follow-up video. In my last video I made a video going over market trends that we're seeing right now in California statewide, but we're going to talk about each of the counties and regions. So here's a snapshot looking at California as a whole. I went over this in my other video. Home sales rose by 4.1%. We're only talking about existing single-family houses. Sales improved from last year. And this is for October, by the way. California's median home sale price is just under $887,000. That's a decrease down by 0.2% year over year. As I mentioned in my last video, this is much worse than the average October year-over-year change since 2010 because historically speaking, we should be seeing a gain of 8%, whereas in October it fell by 0.2%. However, California's median price actually increased from September. It rose by 0.4%, but historically speaking, prices tend to decrease down by 1%. So therefore, the year-over-year change is far worse than historical norms, but the price gains we saw compared to last month is actually better compared to the long run average. And I'll go over home price changes for each of the counties here in a little bit. The unsold inventory index, or the month supply, rose by 3.2% from 1 year ago. So the average October month supply is around 3.4 months, whereas this October it was only 3.2 months. Days in market's at 32 days, which means that on average, homes sold about 7 days longer, or took about 7 days longer to sell a house compared to 1 year ago. So let's look at these figures here. The reason why I want to share this, actually this right here, is so how this all compares to other regions. So 3.2 months, days in market at 32 days. In SoCal, existing home sales actually rose by 5.6%. A little bit better compared to the statewide average, up by 4.1%. Home prices rose by 1.1%. The unsold inventory index, days in market, is all in line with the statewide average. And the sale price to list price ratio was at 98.2%, which is right in line with the average for the state, which is 98.3%, which means for the state, on average, for the houses that did sell, they sold for 1.7 percentage points less than the seller's asking price, right in line with SoCal. Looking at the Central Coast, home sales actually decreased down by 1.5, but home price gains are surging, up by 7.9%. These other metrics below are in line with the state. The Central Valley, you guys all know I'm an agent here in the Sacramento region. The Central Valley, we had a gain in home sales, yet prices were down slightly, down by 0.2%, right in line with the state as a whole. And also these metrics below is right in line with the state as well. The Bay Area, I mean, what a difference 1 year makes, really. Even like 2 months. I'll share some stats regarding that. So the Bay Area, home sales rose by 2.5%. Their existing home price is actually down by 1.1% year over year. And look how low these numbers are. This is more common because in the Bay Area, it tends to be, for many years, a much more competitive market compared to any other markets in the state. So the unsold inventory index is very low at 3.2 months compared to the state as a whole at 3.2 months. Also, days in market's only 22 days, and this ratio is at 100%. So the market there is pretty competitive, to say the least. In the far north, sales surged by 18%, yet prices are down by 3.8%. And these metrics below are always the softest for the regions in California. All right, let's talk about home sales. So home sales actually improved in October from last month and also from 1 year ago. But as you guys can see, as I mentioned in my other video, we've been seeing this kind of lackluster of transactions for about 3.5 years. The plateau prior to COVID was right around here, and now we're at very low levels for quite some time. The California Association of Realtors also breaks down home sales by region. And you can see here, SoCal is the vast majority of all transactions in the state at 44%, which is a combination of the Central Valley and the Bay Area at 22%. And of course, the far north and the Central Coast represent less than 10% of all transactions that occur in the state. So what happens in the Central Valley, the Bay Area, and SoCal really impacts overall the statewide averages. All right, in regards to home prices, I went over that in great detail in my other video, but just kind of give you a kind of a big picture here to summarize it. Home prices again are down by 0.2%, yet they rose by 0.4% from September, right? So big picture, even though prices are down from last year, prices really haven't changed very much at all ever since July this year. And we're only off by $23,000 from the all-time record high that was set back in April at $910,000. So we're right now at more or less at $887,000, not too far off the all-time record high that was set back in the spring home buying season. However, given the year-over-year price decreases down by 0.2%, the market has clearly slowed due to a rise of inventory without a much of an increase in home sales. So inventory has been on the rise for quite some time, yet home sales have remained really low. So in my opinion, affordability is probably one of the biggest hurdles that home buyers are facing in California. I mentioned here, look at new builds. So you guys know I'm an agent here in Sacramento. We have a lot of new home construction. So if you guys live in an area, if you guys are looking to buy a house in Sacramento, of course, reach out to me. But if you're looking to buy a house anywhere statewide, and then this also pertains to other markets outside of California, if you are interested in buying a home, you may want to consider buying a brand new house. So for example, I have a client buying a new home in the Sacramento region right now, and I negotiated a really big closing cost credit or a flex credit for them. And so therefore, they're going to be buying a brand new house with the warranty, everything's brand new, with having zero closing costs, and their 30-year fixed mortgage rate is going to be 5%. So they're buying a brand new house, getting a rate that's far below market rates today, and having zero closing costs as well, including a washer and dryer, refrigerator, etc. So because there's a lot of home building going on in the Sacramento region, there may be a lot of home building going on in the area you're looking to buy as well. Maybe something you want to consider given all these incentives that builders are offering right now. Having said that, the market has clearly slowed though, right? So as I mentioned regarding home price changes down by 0.2% due to likely from affordability issues and of course rising inventory. We're also seeing fewer transactions selling for over the seller's asking price. So that's 31% of the time selling over the asking price. Compare that to about 1 year ago, it was at 38%. And here's a look at that for the percent of houses that sold above the seller's asking price by county. There's actually 5 counties, all located in the Bay Area, which is actually Imperial County is not in the Bay Area, but you have Imperial, then you have Alameda, San Mateo, Santa Clara, and San Francisco, all selling above the seller's asking price more often than not. That's at 50% barrier right there. So in San Francisco, approximately 75% of all houses that sold in October sold above the seller's asking price. I will say though, I mention this every single month, right? In San Francisco, for whatever reason, it's entirely normal to list your home way below market value. So go figure actually sells for above the asking price, which is already below the current market value. So it's normal to see that home sales tend to see more houses selling over the seller's asking price compared to Sacramento, for example. In Sacramento, that ratio is right around 30%. So about 30% are selling over, but about 70% are selling at or below the seller's asking price. Also interesting to see here that Placer County and El Dorado County, which is just outside of Sacramento, have a really low level of houses selling over the seller's asking price. Just kind of eyeballing this, El Dorado is right around about 20%. All right, moving on. Let's talk about inventory, and then we're going to talk about each of the counties regarding sales and prices here in a little bit. So inventory is up slightly from last year. We're at a 3.2 month supply. That's the lowest levels since December of 2024. But as you can see, has been creeping up ever since really 2022. And of course, it does pale in comparison to the skyrocketing inventory we saw in 2005 through 2007. Now, active listings, which is another word for the amount of houses for sale, we're only talking about existing houses of single family homes, not condos, and of course, not new home construction and not land sales. So active listings posted the smallest increase since February of 2024. A small gain up by 10% year over year. And that is actually a huge downward shift because it was actually a 23% gain we saw in August. So just 2 months ago, we saw a year over year gain of 23%. And now that figure is only 10.3%. In my personal opinion, to some degree, this could be from an increase in sales and delistings as sellers are taking their houses off the market if they're not getting their asking price. There was actually a recent article from Redfin that reported in September that delistings, this means you list your home for sale, you don't get an offer, and therefore, rather than just like waiting it out, you just take your house off the market and maybe you relist it in the spring home buying season, for example. So this small increase compared to last year could be from an increase in sales, as I shared, but also from people just taking their houses off the market. They're not motivated. A funny story in Sacramento, for example, I was actually touring a home with a client a few days ago, and it was a house he actually was interested in. The asking price, I want to say, was $450,000 for a home in Sacramento. And I wanted to call the agent to find out, why they're selling, get more information about the house. I called them up and I said, asked these questions. And she said, yeah, if your client's interested, just, give me a call and let me know what they want to offer, which is really unusual because when you want to place an offer, there's a formal document, you write it all up and you send it to them via email. And she told me that because, again, the asking price is $450,000. They had previously received an offer for $460,000 when the asking price was $450,000, and the seller rejected the offer, even though it was the only offer in hand. And so when I talked to her, I said, well, why is that? Why are they not accepting an offer that's over the current asking price? And so the asking price of $450,000 has been at that price for about 3 months now. So why would I advise my client to offer over the asking price if they can't even sell the home for $450,000? So there's some unrealistic sellers out there, to say the least. Anyways, let's move on. So active listings, this is compared to last year at this time. So in SoCal, for example, 19,000 homes for sale. Compare that to last year, there was 17,000. Really hasn't changed a whole lot in the Central Coast and the far north. And in the Bay Area, there's a slight increase compared to last year. Here's another way to look at this. And this is so much different than it was back in August. So I'll share this actual slide from 2 months ago here. So active listings is the gray bar. So in SoCal, there's 12.2% more houses for sale than October of 2024. Yet sales only increased by 5.6% during that same time frame. The Central Valley active listings, we have a 13% increase in homes for sale and a 4% increase in closed home sales. Now, believe it or not, this is a massive improvement compared to my last update. I failed you guys and did not make a video for September. But look at September's figures. Look at this. SoCal, there was a 91% increase in active listings compared to August of 2024, yet sales tanked down by 3.7%. Isn't that crazy? The Central Valley, there was a 27% increase of active listings, yet sales decreased by 3.5%. What an improvement 2 months makes, because there is a delta here, which is normal, but it's actually pales in comparison to what we saw back in August this year. Now, here's also a big shift as well. Here is active listings, or I should say the percent increase of active listings or housing inventory compared to 1 year ago. So active listings is experiencing a big change compared to August. as I mentioned right here. In August, out of the 53 counties that the California Association of Realtors tracks, there were only 3 in the state that posted a decrease compared to 1 year ago. So back in August, there was only 3 counties that posted a decrease from 12 months ago. Now, there's approximately 13 counties that reported a decrease year over year. And in fact, the biggest decline is actually in San Francisco, down by nearly 30% from 1 year ago. In contrast, Imperial County is up by about 80%, Kings County up by about 70%, and Ventura County up by nearly 60%. However, as you can see, much of the gains are in the range of about 5 to about 15%. Now, here's what it looked like back in August. For example, in August, there was only 3 counties that were down. That was San Francisco, Mono, and Tehama, whereas Kings County was up by about 130%, San Bernardino County up by about 120%, and Ventura was up by about 50%. Quite the improvement compared to just 2 months ago. I mean, so much in fact that San Bernardino is right here. So right now there's only approximately about 15% gain of housing inventory compared to August. It was surging big time, up by over 100%. All right, let's change gears here and talk about the percent change in home prices and sales by each of the regions and of course the counties as well. So let's have a look at the state as a whole. So prices, of course, fell by 0.2% and sales rose by 4.1%. Big picture here, of the 53 counties that are tracked by CAR, 23 of them recorded year-over-year gains in home prices from October. So 23 out of the 53 counties posted gains in October. However, more than half, or 28 of those counties that were tracked, posted price decreases from 12 months ago. Therefore, more counties registered price decreases than increases. Tuolumne County, which was a 15% decrease, dropped the most, and Santa Barbara posted the sharpest increase, up by 27% year over year. Also, have a look at this. Here's home sales. So 34 of the 53 counties recorded year-over-year sales gains in October, with nearly half, or 16 of them, growing by double digits. Only 18 of the 53 counties reported a decrease in sales from October of 2024. So the biggest price increases from 1 year ago is actually the Central Coast, whereas the Central Valley, the Far North, the Bay Area all reported decreases. In regards to home sales, only the Central Coast posted a decrease, and the biggest increase was actually in the Far North. Now have a look at the Bay Area here. The Bay Area, we saw decreases in Contra Costa, Marin County, Napa, Santa Clara, Solano, and Sonoma. In contrast, San Mateo absolutely surged, up by 9.5%, which is really interesting because that's actually the most expensive county that the California Association of Realtors tracks. $2.2 million is our median sale price in October. It was only $2 million 1 year ago, up by 9.5%, and sales surged there, up by 5.5%. If you guys are an agent in San Mateo, if you guys follow the market in San Mateo, please leave us a comment below, because what is actually happening there? The market there seems to be much more competitive compared to the surrounding communities, or counties, I should say. In SoCal, the most expensive county, every single month is Orange County, $1.4 million, up by 3%, whereas San Bernardino and San Diego fell year over year. Sales rose in all these counties except for Imperial. It fell by 10.5%, or 10.2%. The Central Coast, Monterey saw a big increase in prices and sales, whereas we saw the opposite in SLO, down 2.4% in prices and down greatly in home sales. Santa Barbara, I don't put a whole lot of weight in this number here, because Santa Barbara, you could have like a 1 month in which you have a lot of like luxury home sales, and then the next month maybe more affordable houses that sell. So some of these counties, especially in the far north, fluctuate greatly each and every month. In the Central Valley, let's have a look at that. Sacramento, we're at $550,000 compared to over $2 million in Santa Clara. Prices here are flat and sales fell by 3.9%. In Placer County, prices rose by 1.5%. And again, the far north, lots of fluctuations here. Feel free to pause and screenshot. Other counties worth mentioning here, El Dorado County, just outside of Sacramento, which actually goes to South Lake Tahoe. Prices there up by 2.4%, yet sales decreased slightly. Yolo County and Yuba County all registered gains in prices from 12 months ago. With that said, thank you everyone for watching today's video. Please like and subscribe. Check out my website, realestateteamfinder.com, if you guys are looking to make a move, whether you're looking to buy or sell a home in California. Have an amazing day. We'll see you in the next video.